We looked at past data and recorded some new data of our own on how people see themselves, their gender, their self-esteem, and how some of the data correlates with each other. Through this process, we found that guys self-rate their appearances higher than girls on average, guys have higher self-esteem on average, and that unlike the national statistics, there is not a significant difference between the proportion of guys and girls who rate themselves as beautiful. All in all, we got a fair gauge of personal assessment of physical appearance and how it may correlate to gender. We sampled 69 students in 2 randomly selected classrooms. One of the classrooms was banned, which explains the large number of subjects from just 2 classrooms. Some of the data was missing since the subjects failed to circle only a single answer or any at all. It is necessary to note that all subjects in the test identified as either a female or male. Here's a survey we used to collect data from the subjects. As you can see, we actually tested for more statistics than we ended up using. And here's the raw data. We organized it as the first answer from the survey is 1, the second answer from the survey is 2, and so forth. Any answers that failed to answer only one answer or one at all received a 0 when compiling the data and was thus ignored.
We will be looking at a chi-square test for homogeneity. As shown by this bar graph, we found that from the samples taken, males had double the amount of subjects who claimed to have high self-esteem than those who state they had low self-esteem. And females had double the amount of subjects who claimed to have low self-esteem than those who state they had high self-esteem. Our null hypothesis was like the national statistic. Girls and boys had the same proportion of people who had high self-esteem. The alternate hypothesis that the proportions were not the same for girls and boys using an alpha level of 0.05. Here's expected and observed values for subjects who recorded high or low self-esteem separated by gender. The data collected will be considered an SRS, and the national data was also an SRS, as stated by the researcher. The data is proved to be approximately normal, as shown by the calculations here. Using a degree of freedom of 1, the chi-squared was 6.835, and the p-value was 0.012. As a p-value of 0.012 is less than 0.05, there is sufficient evidence to reject the null hypothesis and conclude that the proportion of boys and girls who have low and high self-esteem are not the same. When we then use this data to find that a chi-squared homogeneity 95% confidence interval. P sub G is the proportion of high-esteemed CCA girls, and P sub B is the proportion of high-esteemed CCA boys. This SRS for both samples is given in the survey explanation above. We find the interval to be from 0.079 to 0.529. As 0 is not within the 95% confidence interval, we can assume that there is a significant evidence that the 95% confidence level, that the proportion of girls and the proportion of boys with high self-esteem are not the same. Overall, both tests agreed that there was significant evidence that the 95% level to disprove the null hypothesis. This is because both tests use the same 95% confidence interval, so any disagreement between them would indicate an error. So that's pretty much it.